Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's ClaritySoft training webinar. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020, and our topic for today is getting started with Excel reports. This is something that I think a lot of you are very interested in because we have a very large group today, so welcome to everyone. What we're going to be doing today is, first of all, giving you an overview of an Excel report. I don't know how many of you have maybe tried to create an Excel report and got stuck somewhere along the line. So hopefully today we'll give you some instructions that will help you get past that stuck point. We do have in the last 4 or 5 months some default reports that are built into ClaritySoft in the Excel reports module. So one of the things that I do suggest you do after the webinar today is go review those reports, open them up and look at them and see how they're built, and then that will also give you some ideas on how to build what you would like to build. But what we're going to do today, we're going to work with a one source sheet Excel report. The next session that we have in a couple of weeks, we will work with a multiple source sheet Excel report and show you how you can take data from 2 different modules and then using formulas and things in the template, how to combine data together in a 2 source sheet report. So today we're going to start out simple and then give you some ideas, and hopefully you'll be able to go back and try some things yourself, and then come back in a couple of weeks and we'll take you to the next level. But basically the process that you follow with an Excel report is you first of all build your template, just like you do in the reports module where you build your template. You then download the template, which gets downloaded into Excel, and then in that template is when you then can add formulas, create pivot charts and pivot tables. You save the template and then you upload it, and then from that point forward, when you run the report, the data is pulled in from your ClaritySoft according to the filters that you set up in your template. So I think where most people get stuck is on the download and upload of the template. So hopefully we'll get that straightened out for you today. So we're going to create 2 different reports. One is a lead source versus lead quality pivot table, pivot chart type report. And then the other one is creating an opportunity report where you are going to enter or learn how to enter a formula for a weighted amount, taking the probability times the amount according to what the sales stage is and create a weighted amount, which a lot of people would like to do. And so we'll show you how to do that today. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And what I usually like to do before I create any kind of report in ClaritySoft, I like to go to the module where I want to pull my data from and create the filter that I want to use in the report first to test that I'm actually going to get some records and that I'm going to get the records that I want. So in leads, what I want to do is I want to find all of my leads that have come in year to date. Okay, so anything in 2020, and then I want to compare in my Excel report the lead source versus the quality. How, what lead source did we get, and was it good, bad, or average? Okay, what were the statistics? So right now I have a list here of all leads, and what I did earlier is I created a filter for new leads year to date. And so basically my filter was the creation date is year to date. And the simplest way to do that is go to advanced search and create your filter in the time filter tab. I'm assuming all of you or most of you should be familiar with this, of creating it. And you choose your time filter. You choose your date field. I want the creation date, and then I simply clicked in here. So all I'm doing is finding any lead that was created this year. All right. As soon as it goes to 2021, that filter will roll forward to 2021 and start all over again. So that is the filter that I have. So I have new leads year to date. I have 30 records, and you can see if I scroll down, I have all these here. Okay, so I know I should have 30 records when I do this in Excel. So I'm going to go to Excel reports. And in Excel reports, I'm going to collapse some of these folders up so we don't need to see them. Here are the default reports that you now should have in your product. So you can click on these to run the reports and review them. And if we have time at the end, I'll go through a couple of these, but I don't want to take the time now. So what I want to do is I want to create a new Excel report. Come up here and click. It asks me what folder I want to store it in. You can create a new folder here on the fly. One warning about creating new folders is that you cannot delete a folder. Probably sometime in the future we'll give you that capability, but right now you cannot delete a folder that you create. So bear that in mind if you're going to create some new folders. But you can type a new folder in, and then it will be in the list. I already have one here called Susan Webinar Reports. So you choose where you want to save it, and you give it a name. So I'm going to call this Leads. And I jotted a name down here because I've got several samples in my list and I don't want to conflict with them. Okay. So you can name it anything that you want, and then you can type a description in here if you wish to do so. Once you do that, you click Save. And then you choose your source type. So your source type is what module is the data coming from? Well, mine is coming from leads. Then you give your source sheet in the spreadsheet or in the template a name, and I'm just going to call it leads. You can call it anything you want. And then you save it again. So that part's similar to the reports module. When you create a new report, you don't have to name the new report, but you have to connect it to your data source. And then we get similar thing here. What fields do we want pulled into our source sheet? So I want just 3 fields: company name, and I'm going to hold the control key down on my keyboard, and then I can come down and click on lead source here, lead sources. Let go of the control key while you scroll down. And then I want quality. And then you could kick them all over. So this is exactly like the reports module. All right, so I have my 3 fields. Then I go to sort columns. And I'm going to choose to sort by, I don't think it really matters here how I'm going to sort. It might be how you want to see things, like if you want to see them in the order of the quality or in the order of the lead source. So I'm going to choose lead source here. And then my filter criteria, this is where I'm going to create that time filter that I just ran in leads. I want creation date, year to date. Okay? And I'm not putting any other criteria on it. So you could set something for the status or something like that if you wanted to. All right. So then I click Save. So I've now set up the criteria and everything for my source sheet. This is where my data is going to land. If I wanted to add another source sheet, I could click over here and add a new source, and then I could add multiple source sheets with different fields being pulled in and different filter criteria. Like I said, the next session we'll be doing that. So once you're done here, you click the back button. And then you're back to your reports. And here is my report. The next step that we tell you in our directions is to download the template. So you come over here and you click on the row action button and you download the template, which will show up down here. You open the file. And you come in and click Enable Editing, Enable Contact, and then you're sitting here saying, well, now I have nothing. And if you look down here, you have two sheets. Sheet 1, which is indeed blank, and Sheet 2, which is your source sheet where your data is coming in, but you don't see any data. So this is where most people get stuck, and this is where I got stuck when I first started playing around with Excel reports. It's like, now what do I do? Because you want to, if you want to build a pivot chart or a pivot table, you're building it off of really no data. So here's a trick that I learned from Jay in tech support, is you go back to ClaritySoft, and instead of downloading the template, you now actually click on the report name to run it. And it will open the file. And it actually is pulling data in from the database according to, now again, you're getting a blank sheet 1, but all your data is now on that leads sheet, which you said was the source. So here is my data, all right? And I have 32 records, which is exactly correct because in leads I had 30, and that's 2 extra lines up here. So now what I can do to help me build my template is I can select this data that I've pulled in, copy it, go back to the template file, and I'm going to paste it, but I'm going to paste it below some text data. That needs to stay here. All right. So now I have some data to work with. And then another thing I discovered this morning is sometimes when you have 2 of these things open, Excel gets confused. So what you want to do is go back to this file, and then you can close it because you've already copied the data, because that's just a running of the report and you don't need it open anymore. And you can just say don't save. Okay. So now I have this line of some text data here, which is what I want, and then I have some actual data. Now, if I want to build a pivot chart or a pivot table, I can go to my sheet 1 and begin to build the rest of my template. So what I want to do is I'm clicking here, it doesn't matter where you click, and I go to Insert, and then I'm going here to Pivot Chart, and you can choose either Pivot Chart where you get only a chart or Pivot Chart and Table, and I usually do both. Now, the next step here is to select a range. This is another thing you need to note. The range is going to come from my data sheet, and if I select, I want to start with the column headings, and then I can go down. Well, if I stop here for my range, maybe the next time I run this report, I've added 20 more leads. Well, suddenly this range is only looking at the first 33 rows. It's not going down 20 more. So what you want to do is select down a range, however far you think you may need to go to capture all of the leads that you would bring in a year. Okay, that's what you want to get. Click OK. And now we have our pivot chart and our pivot table on the sheet. So then we come over here and we're going to drag our fields onto the pivot table. And what we want is the quality, and then we want the company name here and the lead sources here. And I think that's the way I want this. Yeah. So what I'm seeing here now is for each lead source, I'm seeing how many good, how many bad, and how many average, okay? So that's what I want to see. And then you can pivot them the opposite direction, which is, take a look at. And then over here in my chart, I have my data table, I have my different lead sources, and then how many of each, okay? Now, notice down here, I have blank, because that's for all those blank rows that I selected. Well, I can turn that off by clicking on this little drop down, scroll down and uncheck blank. That will take those away, and do that for both the row labels and the column labels. So that clears that out, all right? Then I can just begin to format my chart in different ways. This one's okay, but not the easiest to read. So I can change my chart type and do different things with it. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit and over a little bit. When I click on the chart itself, you'll see a little plus sign over here to say, well, I would like to add a chart title. I would like to add data labels. I can add axis titles if I want. So I just click to turn on the things that I want to turn on for my chart elements. So now you're in Excel, and if you're already familiar with Excel and the pivot charts, you can just take off. And I would imagine that a lot of you attending today are a lot better at Excel and all of this than I am. Okay, so I've got that, and then if I want to format it, I can come up here and make this bigger or whatever I want to do with it so that it stands out bigger, all of that. So you can format the chart, and then I also may want to change the chart type, okay? The other thing that might be more helpful is to, instead of seeing a count of these things, we might want to see a percentage overall. So if I right-click in one of these values fields, then you can do show values as. And then you could do 100% of the grand total, but what we're going to do is a percent of the parent row total. And again, if you're already familiar with pivot tables and charts, you may know all this stuff kind of inside and out. So this changes these to percents, all right? And this looks messy over here, but hang in there. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select, and then I want to change. Oops, I have to go to percent. Hold on. Where is percentage? There it is. Can't see. Take away my decimal places so they're whole numbers. Okay, so I've done that. And then I can come over here and right-click on the chart and go to change chart type. And then I'm going to change it to a bar chart, and I'm going to change it to a 100% stacked bar. So then what it's showing me now is the percentages, okay? And then I would need to change the color of the font and all of that to something that makes it readable. And I can change colors. Let's see, green. Purple. Oh, that's some text data. Actually, that I don't really need to worry about because that is going to go away. This one right here, that's purple. so we don't need to worry about it, but I'll change it anyway. So now I can see I have my chart, I have my pivot table. You can do more formatting of things, but in general, you get the idea that this pivot chart is pulling the data from this data sheet here. And every time you run the report, if this list gets longer, then that chart is automatically going to update itself, which is what you want, okay? The other thing I think that looks nice is if you go to the View menu and turn off the grid lines in the background of the spreadsheet. And then you can move things around, you can resize things, make it look really, really nice in here. All right, so once I've created this, now this is my template, okay? So I do not want to save the template with the data. Otherwise, when I run the report, I'm going to get that data, and I don't want that to happen. I want the data to pull from the database. So I go back to my lead sheet, and I'm going to select all the data that I copied and pasted here, except for that line of some text data. That I'm going to leave. And when I take that out and go back to my sheet 1, notice how my chart resets itself, which is what you want to have happen. All right. So I'm going to now save my template. So I'm going to come up here. And what I recommend is have a folder on your computer, on your network, where you're going to save all your ClaritySoft Excel templates and just put them all in the same folder, and then you can find them. So I'm going to do a save as. Go to my full, and I just created this folder here with AA in front of it, so it was at the top of the list. I didn't have to go hunt for it. And then this is where all of them are. So the title will be here, and it'll be marked as a template type file, which is what you want. And you just simply click save. Okay, then I can actually close it once I'm done. And it returns me back. Now, the next step is to upload the template that you just created. So that's the difference in the download versus the upload. So I'm going to click here and go to Upload Template. And here's my template that I just saved. So I click on it, click Open, and then it will tell me it's saved successfully. All done. So now, when I click on the report, it will run the template, pull the data in, and then your chart will automatically populate. You just have to click probably enable editing and enable content. So there it is. There's my data from the report. And notice that some text data line is gone. So when you actually run the report, that does not show up. That's why I said it wouldn't show up in the chart. But when you're creating the template, you need to leave that there, okay, if you're putting in some sample data. But now if I went back to the leads module and I imported 10 more leads, the creation date would be today, and when I run the report again, I would get 10 more in here, and my numbers and values would all change over here according to what their lead source was. So that's how to create, pulling in a list. Again, you decide what you want to show, and then run your filters in the module to make sure you're going to get records, and then come and create the Excel report. So, and then if you go back to, now this can be saved, you know, you can do a save as and save this anywhere. So you can send this to somebody and then they can save it after they view it. But you can always go back to here and run it. Now, any report in ClaritySoft, you can schedule to run So if somebody wants to see a leads report once a week, once a month, you can click on the row action button and schedule it to run daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, okay? Repeat every week, like if I did weekly. So say every 1 week. What day do you want it to be delivered? Do you want it on Monday? So it would pick up everything up through the previous week. When to start it, when to end it, and what format to send it in. You can send in PDF. If the person that's receiving it would like to be able to do some modification of the report once it comes in, it wouldn't go back and modify the template. It would just modify the file that they receive. You can send it as Excel, or you can send it as a CSV. I'm not sure CSV works with pivot tables. So anyway, you decide what format you want to send it in, and then down here you type the email address or addresses of the folks that should receive that report every single week. Okay? The interesting one is the yearly one. If you create reports that go out yearly, you can create those reports. They sit there all year, and all you're doing in the database is adding all your data, and then on the day that you tell it to run, bingo, that yearly report runs and you're done. How wonderful would that be? Okay, so think about these things. And this is all available in the reports module as well. All right, so the second report that I wanted to do was from opportunities. And we get questions a lot of times on, with your sales stages, you assign a % probability. And people usually say, well, I want to be able to have the weighted amount. I want to take the % probability times the amount to get me to know how much it's worth right now. And before we had calculated fields available in ClaritySoft, you couldn't do it in the record. Now, if you have calculated fields available to you, you can create that calculation and show it right within the record. But if you don't have it, you can do it in a report. And the reports module, that's probably the one drawback of the reports module, is you cannot add any kind of calculation in your report templates. It's whatever you can pull out field-wise from your data, but you can't add a calculation. But in Excel reports, you can. So that's really the big difference between the two. So I want to run a report. I've already created the filter here. You can see if I go to all opportunities, I have a total of 528 opportunities. But what I want to see all my opportunities that have a close date of, when I'm saying this 3 months, that means October, November, December. And then as soon as it rolls into November, then it becomes November, December, January. So I created a filter of a close date being with a time filter of this 3 months, okay? So when I run it, I can see that I have October, November, and December. So that's what I want to pull in. All right, so let's go to Excel. And new report. And then again, choose your folder. Give it a name. So this is and I type this 3 months, and I'm going to put in the word weighted value. Okay. Save it. And this is pulling from opportunities. And then again, I name my source sheet. Okay. And save it. And so we do the same thing again. We choose the fields that we want to pull in. So I want the account, and I'm holding the control key down again. I want the amount, the close date, the enter date, which is the same as the creation date, so it doesn't matter which one of those two you pull in. And then I want the opportunity name. I want the owner. I want the probability and the stage. And then if there are any custom fields you want to pull in, your custom fields will be down here. So any fields that you want, you can pull in. And then let's see, I want to organize these a little differently. So I'm going to push this up here and this up here. Bring the amount down and the probability down and this down. So I've got the account, opportunity owner, enter date, close date, all in the order I want them. And then the sort columns, again, here I think what I wanted to do was to sort these by, I don't even remember what I did before, and I don't know that it matters a whole lot. Can just sort by the close date. And here you could do it in ascending order, which would be from oldest to newest, or you could do it in descending order, which would be from newest to oldest. Did I say that twice? I forget. Okay, so I've got that. And then the filter criteria is going to be the close date is this 3 months. Okay, now notice you could do this quarter, okay, but I wanted to go forward. I want to project. I want to see what I have going for the, including this month, what do we have going for 3 months? You could kick it out 4 months or whatever you want. So you just choose, all right? And I'm not putting any standard filters on. Now you might need to or want to put in filters to not pull in one opportunities or lost opportunities or ones that are at no decision. So you could just say here, stage is not equal to 1, okay? So you could do that, and then you could click the plus and say, and the stage is not equal to lost. So you could add a standard filter there if you wanted, all right? And then you save it. So now we have our source sheet set up and saved. We go back. And then basically we're going to do the same thing. We're going to download the template. Enable the editing and the content. And then again, your data is going to be on the second sheet. And so it looks the same as before, is pulling in some text data, some random dates and stuff like that. None of it makes any sense, but that's okay. It makes sense to the source sheet. So I'm going to widen this column and I'm going to type in weighted amount or whatever you wanted to call it. And then I'll put in my formula. So my formula is equal to the probability times the amount divided by 100, okay? Now, if you wanted to add additional formulas over here to do other things with data that you've pulled in, go ahead, you can add additional formulas. So it just all needs to be on this line with this sum text data. Okay, and don't pay any attention to what this value is. It makes no sense. Okay, that's what throws everybody off too. It's like, well, that's not a right calculation. Why isn't that working? So just don't pay attention to it. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, is go back and run the report so that I can pull some data in. Okay. So where am I here? So I'm just going to click on it to run it. Open this. And now I have some data. So I can take this, copy it, go to my other sheet, paste it, and notice as soon as I paste this down, this calculates, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Now I can check my calculations to see if they're correct, okay, which they should be, all right? So according to what the probability is times this divided by 100, it should be correct. Okay, so now I have something to work with. Well, maybe I may want to just leave this as that. That's all I want in my report. I just want the list. I don't want anything else. And in this case, because you're not building a pivot table or a pivot chart, you don't need to worry about a range. If you get, you know, in the next 3 months, you get 20 more opportunities coming in, they'll just populate in here and they're here, okay? So that's a very simple one. I just wanted to show you how to get the formula to work. You must leave that sum text data in the template in order for it then to populate when you run down. Now, if you wanted to do something else in here to spruce up the report, maybe you want to know, well, by the owner, what is the value of the opportunities that folks have coming in over the next 3 months? So you could go to here and add a pivot chart and table. And now is when you need to pick that range, okay? So again, go to your opportunity sheet, select including the weighted amount column, and just go down however far you think that filter would need to go. You know, some of you would have to go down a few hundred rows, some of you not so much. So you know your data. And then click OK. So we've set that range, okay? And then we would pull in the information. So what I want, actually, I want to see the owner and I want to see the amount. So now I can see my owners here and I can see their chart with the amount. And then again, the filters to turn off the blank ones. So you're not getting that. Okay. And then the other thing here, this is coming into general number format, which is messy looking. So I just select the whole sheet and I just go here, change this to number. Whoops, no decimal places. I always go, which way? Hold on. Always go the wrong way. So I've set my number format to look a little nicer. And then on the chart itself, I want to add data labels so that they show up on the tops of the columns to show the total value per person. And then I can add a chart title and all of that. So basically you just go through the motions of formatting your chart. I'll just say this 3 months because it's including so that, and then you can format it. So basically you follow the same steps. You get it all set up the way you want, all formatted the way you want it to be. You could add additional Where are the grid lines? There they are. You could add multiple pivot table charts in here because you could also pull in, maybe you want to group them by stage. What's the value of all of my opportunities and at what stage they're at? So you could add another pivot table and pivot chart to group them by the stage. So you can see, just come over here and just go to another section and add it in. And then you can continue to build. We have time to do that, so. Again, I want to pick the range, and most likely you'd want to pay attention to the range that you did on the first one, so you pick the same range on the second one to be consistent. I didn't pay attention, which I normally don't, so I'm just going to go down here so far and go for it. And then I get my pivot chart and pivot table, and then I can build it. So this time I want the amount in the values, but I want the stage. So now it's showing me my sales stages. Oh, darn it. I always click on the wrong part. So now I'm seeing this by sales stage. And then I can turn off the blanks again. So we don't have those. And then I also noticed that even though I set the whole spreadsheet format to no decimal places and commas, it changes it. It doesn't do it for the second pivot chart. So you have to do it again. So I'm not sure why, but okay, why isn't? I think I have to go back down here and set it. So yeah, it's probably a quirk of Excel. Oh, I keep going the wrong way. There, so it fixes it, but it's weird that it doesn't do that. So you could add that. So then you can have another chart on there pulling from this data, okay? And then again, this is our template. So before we save this as a template, we need to delete the sample data. That throws us back. And when we go back to here, these should reset themselves, which they've done. Then we do a save as to save it to where we want it to go. And like I said, if you have that one folder where everything's going to go, it's much easier because then you know where to look for it. So, is that the one I just did? No, that's earlier. So this one is right here. Save it. And now that template is saved. Close it. Close this file. Don't save it because that was just a sample run. Now we need to upload the template. Once it's done, then I can run the report. And then it's good to go. If you need to edit a template, like you want to make a change to it, then what you need to do is download the template, edit it to make your changes, do a save as and save it with the same name, and then upload it again, okay? So that's, you can edit your templates at any time, but you'd have to download it first in order to do the editing to make changes and then upload it again. So there's your chart, and there's your opportunity, and there's your weighted amount. It all worked. All right. So you've got that. And again, some people work with territories. You might have a custom field for territories, so then you could pull that in here. And this report could become just a giant opportunity report with all kinds of pivot tables and charts that you're creating and pulling in to show things grouped by territory, by owner, by sales stage, by whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Hopefully this has given you the process, because I think the hardest thing to learn about the Excel reports is the process to follow. And I shouldn't admit this, but our help system and the knowledge base kind of leads you to the precipice, and then it leaves you hanging with the directions. They're not entirely clear. So hopefully this has helped you get some ideas, and maybe things you've already tried. Now you're saying, now I understand how to do it. But go back and try some things. Also here, if you explore our different standard reports that are here, these do not pull in anything from any custom fields, obviously, but you can. And they are just using standard, the standard fields in ClaritySoft. But these can give you an idea of the kinds of things that you can create. So right here, and my data is not the greatest. Here's accounts by owner. Okay, so that's pulling in, and here's the account sheet right here. So you're seeing the data being pulled in, and then that feeds into that pivot table. Here's sales being pulled in, and here's activities. So if I go back to here, I'm seeing top 5 accounts by revenue, which that's pulling from the sales sheet. This is top 5 accounts by the number of activities. And this is where all of your accounts are located, okay? So my data is not the best data, and I'm not sure what filter they're using on this, but this is where you can go and explore. So if you download the template and then open the template, then you can go and look at the data source and see what filters are set up and what, see how this is constructed. So that's why I say go back to, look at these default reports to give you a sense of, what you can do and where you can go. Now, this is one I haven't ever run, so let me see what we get here. And then one other comment I'm going to make, because I've been playing around with this since this morning and last week. I noticed that my Google Cache, so here's products by sales rep. This would really depend. Mine are a mess because I have coffee products mixed in with machines and other stuff, so this is really goofy looking. But you can see products sold by the type of product. Now that might not be practical to do because you have way too many products, but that's just something that's there. But what I was going to say is I noticed that after running a bunch of reports and, downloading, uploading the templates and stuff like that, that my cache in Google Chrome really got huge. So if you're doing this, you may want to go up here to your ellipsis button, more tools, and clear browsing data. This is a good thing to do with ClaritySoft periodically anyway, but basically you set your time range to all time and then do cached images. See, I cleared this before the webinar, and I've put in 10.4 megabytes of data during this hour-long webinar. So you may want to pay attention to that and clear that out if you're doing reports, because that could probably, could potentially cause you some issues. And so anyway, just a little heads up on that one because I had problems with that earlier today. So, do that, and you should clear your cache every once in a while anyway, so that it doesn't get confused. So hopefully I've given you something to think about and some ideas. And go back here. If you need help, Jay in tech support is our kind of our Excel person that you can give a call to tech support and maybe ask for Jay if you need help on setting up an Excel report. And their number is 888-838-7487, extension 2, or email them at support@claritysoft.com. And then future topics, critiques, whatever, info@claritysoft.com. We had a lot of people sign up for this course today, so we realize now that Excel reports are something that was desperately needed. But no one told us that. So what you need to do is email us and tell us what you need help with, and we will plan webinars around it. So otherwise, we're sort of operating in a vacuum. All right. So thanks for coming. Hopefully you learned some good stuff, and now you can go back and try out some things. And then hopefully we'll see you the next session, which is 2 weeks from today. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you later.